Good evening. Welcome to the one, the only Hog Talk podcast, live from the Sterling Soap and Roastery Studios, part of the Believe in Buzz Radio Networks, where you can hear us on 106.7 in Central Arkansas. All live shows are presented to you by Arkansas Brewing Company in downtown Ozark. I am Porter Hayes. Alongside of me is Adam Hall, and we're also brought to you by Bet Online. Continues to be the fastest and easiest way to place your wagers, including live betting and your favorite casino and card games, available to play right from your phone. Head to the website or use your mobile device to sign up today and get in on the action. Remember, use the promo code BLEAV for your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Bet Online, where the game starts. And we're joined tonight by Jackson Collier, JC Hoops, to go over some basketball stuff, talk about the season. But we'll start off, speaking of Bet Online, with the Super Bowl, and we're talking about just the underwhelmingness of it. If you're not a Chiefs fan, to me, that had to be overall one of the worst Super Bowls in recent memory for me. The pregame couldn't get the music right. The commercials were trash. The game was meh until the fourth quarter and overtime. But just your overall thoughts, Adam and Jackson, on the Super Bowl last night.
Well, yeah, the first three quarters were kind of just there. I watched a lot of it was kind of background noise as I was doing other stuff or whatever, because, with Baltimore being out, I wasn't fully invested in it. We were talking about a lot of the commercials. We've seen like over the last week kind of leak out here and there. So, we posted the meme from, I forget who posted it, but it was Roger Goodell, on the phone to get it to overtime. And sure enough, that's what happened. You hate for what happened to Dre Greenlaw, is what it is. Life goes on, So all in all, it was subpar if you weren't a Chiefs fan.
Yeah, it was one of those things, and we were talking off the air a minute ago, and I'm a huge Rams fan, and I remember a few years ago the Rams and Patriots Super Bowl. It was like a defensive struggle, very low scoring, and as a Rams fan, being super invested in that, I thought it was one of the best Super Bowls ever. And everybody's talking about, oh no, it was terrible. Like, what are you talking about? It's one of the worst Super Bowls to watch. Now coming back this year, having a similar kind of game with no investment into it, I can understand what people were talking about. It was very boring to watch. It was a punt fest, penalty fest.
Just imagine being a guy that you kicked 3 50-yard field goals, and it was a point after attempt that cost you pretty much the Super Bowl. That's just how ironic last night's game was. But also the fact it took a cryptic tweet or whatever, I don't know if it was a troll tweet or from Adam Schefter about, hey, this thing could go into double overtime. I don't know if y'all seen that, but it's just like that had to take some, make it interesting for people to sit there and watch it. Because, again, like I said, it was just very underwhelming overall. And congratulations to all the Chiefs fans, bandwagon or not, So there was there was always those fans that the diehard ones have been there since the Trent Green days, Joe Montana way back, and then you have the Johnny Come Latelys that now all of a sudden Chiefs they're looking to be the new dynasty. We'll see what happens. But
I just remember Priest Holmes back in the day.
Yeah, Priest Holmes.
I know, from Fort Smith, Arkansas. Little fact.
Now, did he not go to Poto?
No, he was just born at St. Edwards way back in the day, and
I thought there was an Oklahoma connection with him.
I just remember he was one of the most gifted, most legendary kick returners of all time. It was one of the most diverse. I think he had one of the greatest seasons out of the backfield, maybe even 2 seasons back to back, and fell off the face of the earth or something. But Priest Holmes was a legend. I remember playing the Madden games growing up, like Madden 04, Madden 05, and if you ever, me and my brother would used to do random teams. If I ever drew the Chiefs, I'd be like, oh, heck yeah, I got Priest Holmes. Yeah, let's go.
One more tidbit before we get over to the main subject, talking about, special team guys. Devin Hester is going to be in the Hall of Fame. Do you think, because of his impact being a kick return, punt return specialist, deserves to be in the Hall of Fame, or do you think they got it right with that one?
I mean, I think if if you play a position and you do extremely well, if you're known for being super uh, talented at that position, I think you deserve a spot. Like, I don't know what a good comparison it would be because it's super nuanced. The fact that it's like a special teams player, like I don't know what the equivalent would be
A
in baseball or
designated hitter in
basketball.
baseball.
Yeah, like a designated hitter in baseball, but like it wouldn't be like a sixth man because sixth men still make all-star teams sometimes, like in basketball. But like if you're playing a position and you play that spot at a legendary level, I think you fully deserve to be in the Hall of Fame.
I mean, he completely kind of changed the game when it came to returns, punt return, kick return. So I think, yeah, it's fully deserved. First ballot. I think the snub of snubs for this year's was Antonio Gates.
Yeah.
Not getting
Yeah.
it.
I think tight ends always get that, though. Look how long, like Gonzalez and you had Sterling Sharp, guys like that just get snubbed and they end up getting in. But it's like, man, that's always that position that's gone away. And I'll tell you what, the coolest thing was we actually seen fullback play last night for the
Oh
first,
yeah, juice check.
Who's former Raven, yeah, juice check. But and that's like, just talking about like you bringing up Sterling Sharp. I know, listening to Shannon Sharp's introduction a few years ago, whenever that was. I mean, he made it a point to, that Sterling Sharp had the greatest 7 years of any wide receiver stats wise to ever play. And, he just gets overlooked because his career was so short. But yeah, he's definitely one. Just I expected when I saw Antonio Gates wasn't on the list, I was just kind of shocked because you think about tight ends that, but essentially were unguardable and changed the way things were, which I know Gates, coming up with Gonzalez and stuff, may have been some overshadowing, but at the same time, I don't see how you didn't put him in.
Random question: is Jeremy Shockey in the Hall of Fame?
I don't think so.
That'd be another one.
He's another one. Like I remember when the Giants had their 2 Super Bowls with Eli Manning. Like Shockey was the guy.
Mm-hmm. Him and then Olsen. He's out of Miami. Then of course Jason Witten. Just a lot of those guys that you think about the tight end position today, and Henry's a very good tight end, but you rarely hear his number get called. It's just another thing like the running back.
He'll go like 2 or 3 weeks without a catch, then he'll get 2 or 3 touchdowns in a week or two, which is crazy. But it's just how Hunter's been. He's had. I mean, if you can stay in the NFL as long as he has, then you're in a great spot. But yeah, I wish he would be on a team that could give him more production because I think he has that in him.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was what was expected just in that system. Even without Brady, you expected them to utilize the tight end a lot more, and it just.
But their thing is they signed they have 3 tight ends.
3 tight ends
utilized. Yeah. So if you want to it's just not beneficial to having a Hall of Fame tight end. You can have 3 very productive guys who can stay in the league for a long time, and maybe that'll catapult them to another franchise at some point. But it just sucks if your goal is to be like, oh, I want to be a Hall of Famer, I want to be known. Because, Hunter Henry, if he's on another franchise, who knows? I'm not sitting here saying yeah, it definitely could be. Maybe though.
Mm-hmm.
Well, moving on to the meat and potatoes of the show, Arkansas, we were talking about, me and Adam were actually talking about coming into a show after a win. We're not used to talking about that, and it's been a roller coaster season. You win one, you lose one, you split, but it looks like there's promise to this team. They just can't seem to put it all together consistently. And I don't know if that, to you, in your opinion, if that's just the total depth. You don't have the guys, and you look at guys like Ricky Council, look at guys like Justin Smith, these role players and starters that you see them doing big things in the NBA, and you realize what you had with them in Arkansas. What is your overall take just been with this season? I mean, I've even posed the question, is it more of a disappointing season, the basketball team, than the football team, just because of the expectations? But what's been your overall thoughts of what we've seen this year out of Arkansas?
So I would say that, yes, this is a more disappointing season than the football team because this was a team, and I even, I'll bring it back to what I said before the season. I thought this was going to be a Final Four team, and I had like objective reasonings for that. I thought, Musselman had his highest retention rate at Arkansas. He returned 5 players. I think 3 of those were starters. Devo started last year. Brazil was a 6th man, but essentially played starter minutes last year. Mekhi Mitchell was a starter last year. So with those 3 plus, Jalen Graham, I thought, that's a solid 4 plus Joseph Pinion being 5. I was like, okay, highest retention rate Muss has had on top of, bringing in a really solid transfer class. I was very impressed with the transfer class they were able to bring in. I was very high on, especially Tremont Mark. I thought Chandler Lawson was a diamond in the rough. I thought, El Ellis was a guy who produced at a high level at Louisville. Caleb Battle, everybody saw what he was able to do at Temple. So I was really impressed with the portal haul too. Plus, then you bring in 2 top 25 freshmen and Leighton Blocker and Bay Fall. Bay Fall is a McDonald's All-American. Leighton Blocker actually finished ranked ahead of Bay Fall in the rivals rankings, and I think maybe 1 or 2 other sites as well. So, like, looking at all of these just on paper, it seemed like this roster was constructed to have the most talent and the most retention and the most guys able to adapt to the system or already know the system in Musselman's tenure. Now, where does that go wrong? I don't know.
Yeah.
And I think that's the issue that Musselman has, because I don't think he knows exactly where it's gone wrong either. He's taken some really talented pieces. He's taken some pieces who are already here. And for whatever reason, they haven't been able to gel. They haven't been able to buy into the system completely yet. Maybe, I saw a lot of promise against Georgia. We're talking about coming into this interview, actually coming off a win for the first time in a while, it seems, after the extended break, after getting blown out by LSU. But I thought the defense was better. This team has struggled playing good defense. This team has struggled playing with good effort for a full 40 minutes. But I thought they did both of those against Georgia. Georgia's not a great team. So it'll depend on whether that translates against Tennessee and moving forward. But I thought it was something to build off of. But to answer your question, just like where did all this go wrong? I honestly don't know. It's been very baffling to me this whole season, because I think the talent is there.
Yeah, it seems like it's been an anomaly of the year. You talk about he's tried every kind of substitution, mix up, matchups, and starting 5, rotating in, and nothing has just been able to stick. And sometimes you just got to call it a year. I mean, you can't go to the Elite 8, Sweet 16 every year. But I think a lot of it is just the talent and depth. You have the talent, but you don't have the talent and depth to really sustain, because you look at it, you need to go on a run where you're winning 3, 4, 5 games in a row, but they haven't had that. But there's so many other factors. I mean, we talk about guys, it seems like every year they've dealt with some kind of injury or coming and going. And I'm, not to pick on Devo at all, but, him leaving for a second time, that has to affect the team, because, social media gets involved, fans get involved, and their kids are on their phones during the game. They're seeing it when they're not in a practice or, a game setting. And I know that has a lot to do with it, especially in, I'm not just saying Arkansas fans, because every fan base has that. I just wonder how hard that is sometimes for these kids to realize, because we are still dealing with kids, even though they have NIL and stuff like that. Just the emotions, they're still kids.
Yeah, no, it's one of those things where I think there's a disconnect between portions of the fan base and the players, because there are certain portions of the fan base, I think a very large portion of any fan base, who will say, even before NIL, like, these aren't kids, they're adults. They're, their school is paid for, they're on scholarship, whatever. But now that NIL is involved, I think there's even more people who are like, oh, well, they're getting paid now, so they're not amateurs. They're 18 plus and they're professionals, so they're no longer children or whatever, which I don't necessarily buy into that. I mean, it's literally, in my mind, it's just as easy as thinking back to when you were 18 to 22 years old. Because not everybody is a Division I athlete under a microscope, regardless of if they're getting paid or not. I don't care about that. Because the fact is they're talented enough to be making money for the university at one of the biggest sports and one of the biggest money-making draws for a university. Then they deserve to have some sort of share in that. And I think that's what NIL is good for. But the fact is they're still 18 to 22. When I was 18 to 22, I wouldn't be ready for having my life under a microscope, people criticizing me or having rumors spread about me that aren't true. Or having people sit here and say, oh, well, I'm going to say whatever I want about this player because I know he's making X amount of dollars.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's right. I don't think it's fair. I think it's fair to criticize players. I think it's fair to criticize coaches, but to the degree that has been, and the justification being the fact that these are no longer amateurs, I think that not just at Arkansas but across the country has been widely blown out of proportion.
Porter and I have talked about this off air a little bit, and I'll bring it up now, kind of going with the NIL talk. Do you think that it would be more beneficial or less beneficial for there to be more transparency to fans when it comes to injury status or sitting out or whatever, because these players are getting paid? Are we entitled to that, or is it something that we should honestly stop asking for?
It's a really tough situation because on one hand, you want to respect players' privacy regardless of the situation. And if they're seriously injured and, they're trying to deal with it on their own, like their own mental health issues or their own, like coping with the fact that, their season might be over. And in some cases, their career might be over. I don't think that should necessarily be shared publicly because that's something that they're already dealing with privately. Then, they're getting blown up from different messages like, oh, even if they're well-meaning, like, oh, hate that happened to you, wish you could be back. Like, I just feel like that can be very overwhelming. I mean, especially considering the fact that, like, what happens if a kid's 18 years old, like Nick Smith was last year, and, we call for more transparency. And it turns out it's like, oh, well, Nick Smith, I'm not saying this is true, but like just say that like, oh, he tore like 4 ligaments in his knee and his career is over. As an 18-year-old prepared to deal with an onslaught of messages and tags on social media at all the different like outlets for even well wishes. Like I think that's just a lot. But on the other hand, if we're asking fans to donate to a collective, if we're asking fans to do all this, then fans should have, like, I guess, some sort of ask for a return. And I'm not saying the return has to be like, oh, well, I have to know about every single status of every single player at 100%, like every single minute. But I feel like there's at least an argument to be made. Like, look, I gave $10,000 this year to the collective. And why don't I have an answer if I'm giving my money to this? But then again, to a counterpoint, even that, it's also like, well, if you're a booster from olden days without NIL, if you just give tens of thousands of dollars to the program, you're also not entitled to those answers necessarily. So I think it's just a really difficult situation. I don't think there is a right answer at this point. It sucks because we always want to have it like an answer, but I just don't think there is one right now.
But I think you nailed it, though. You said just more transparency on, hey, is this player coming back or not? We don't need to know his personal business. And it goes back to your original topic when you're talking about this. You shouldn't go after them personally. Me and Adams talked about this a lot when it comes to, criticizing a player or a coach. And this goes pro, college, coach, player, anything. It's okay to criticize them. If they've played bad and you want to say their game stinks or he can't shoot the three or he's this and that, hey, they might not like it. The fans might not agree with it, but that is our right as a fan to talk about their game. Now, when you cross that line is when you go after them personally. And that's where you're gray area. You're talking about we want to know the personal details. I don't think we're privy to that. It's just every time the Arkansas, and it's weird, like, and we'll talk about the other subject too. It's like all we're seeing out of the University of Arkansas is Edge, donate more, donate this. Hey, we'll FaceTime you. We will give you a hoodie if you do. But they're wanting more and more out of the common fan. And I'm talking to the common fan. They're not asking, Frank Fletcher for $50 for a hoodie, or, is he going to FaceTime Layden Blocker? They're talking about the common fan. And that's always been my argument is you want to give us more, you want us to give you more, then, hey, is Trevor Brazil coming back or not? I mean, that's kind of the thing. If he is, say it. If he's not, then just say it. Just be honest with us. If you and then we're going to trust you when you're saying, hey, man, we don't know a timetable. It might be a few weeks. But there's just so much when it comes to the game, the competitive edge over another school that they're holding back. But you got to look at all of it. And that's where I have a hard problem is, they want to chirp back at the media about this and that, but yet they've kind of brought it on themselves when all they're doing for the fan is asking for stuff. And then what are they giving the fans in return other than you don't know? And then they wonder why fans make assumptions or make these things because there's no transparency. So the fans are going to make up whatever they want until they're told. And one thing is the fans have to stop listening to these Missouri burner accounts. They're getting to you. They're the ones starting these rumors. You know what I'm saying? It's like, I just think there needs to be more when it comes to that and keep it non-personal.
Well, and even on top of all of that, though, like one thing I was surprised of, I guess, and even kind of disappointed in was the fact that those rumors, and I'm not going to comment publicly on the rumors themselves. Like everybody knows when I say rumors, they know what I'm talking about. But the fact that those spread so far and went on for so long, and there was never an official statement released from anybody relating to the university, they just kind of let it go. And I think that's a mistake. I think that was a PR disaster because they could have rectified that in day 1, day 2 of that trying to get out. And instead, they let it fester and go on for a week, 2 weeks. And now it's spread so far, it doesn't matter that whatever his face up at Barstool made a video about how erroneous the rumors were. It spread so far and got along for so long that it doesn't matter because so many people are setting their beliefs now. I think it was a mistake that the university, the athletics department, the basketball team, whoever is responsible, didn't get ahead of it.
Well, I think we've even seen too, because they didn't, nip this in the bud when they should have, because the fans saw it in the beginning. They saw the rumors. They saw, they start messaging whoever, and nobody followed up afterwards. There was nothing that came out, and now you have parents of players that are in a lot of these Arkansas groups on different media, social medias, that are then defending their child, or feel the need to, which by all means, play mama bear, play papa bear. That's your job. They know what they're getting into with their kid, being a D1 athlete, but at the same time, the fans are not doing any service to the player or the parents by making the comments after comments when it's already, it was basically ruled as false.
Yeah, and that goes to that personal aspect of it. I've always been taught if it don't affect your personal life, then who gives a shit? You know what I'm saying? Like, who cares what they do? Because then you're like, you make the statements of, well, this is why he went 2 for 12. It's because he does this or he did that. It has nothing to do with it. You're just making excuses. But to me, is when you have everybody saying things, but the person who should, or people who should, that's what I had a problem with. You have the person's spouse speaking out against it, but nothing from the person themselves. I mean, where you want to teach and you want to mold these people into young men, but where's the backing? A simple social media statement or something. Hey, look, we're not going to stand for this, but I didn't see anything. And it's kind of troubling that, we want to be everywhere and here and this player and this rap star and this shirt. But when it comes time to really needing to step up or really needing to be there, where were they at? That's a part of the problem I have with that situation.
It's definitely a lot.
Yeah. But I guess moving on to, the season, but man, you cover the team, you follow high school, college recruiting. As grim as this season's been, where's the light? I mean, is there anything coming in recruiting wise? Is there, because I know some people are probably looking at players from other teams that might enter the transfer portal. Is there a light at the end of the tunnel when it comes to getting this, not real necessarily making a Final Four run or winning national championship, but getting this program back on track to where they could get the Elite Eight or Sweet 16 again?
Well, I think at the end of the day, like no matter what happens at the end of this season, if you have Eric Musselman at the helm, he's proven he can bring in transfer portal talent, and he already has 2 really good high school recruits committed and signed to come in next season. So I think it's a matter of retaining who you want to retain, and then filling in with guys that can help win next year. The issue being, obviously this past offseason, it didn't work, for whatever reason, even though everybody thought that it was going to, it just didn't. So do you trust in Musselman again? Do you trust in what he did last year or like think it's going to happen like it did last year? Or do you think it's going to happen like it did the previous 3 years? That's up to each person. But if Eric Musselman's still here, if that's the route that they take, if it's going to be him that's filling the roster through the transfer portal again, then it's going to be upon each fan to either believe or not believe that he's going to get the job done. And I think he can. I certainly think he's proven he can do it.
Looking towards this week's game or Wednesday's game, the Sharkensaw game that they've deemed it. What are you looking for Arkansas to do against Tennessee? Because having the game that we much needed against Georgia, then to turn around and have the daunting task of Tennessee coming in, what do these guys got to do?
I mean, just first of all, they have to defend the dribble drive. Ziegler's going to try to get to the cup. He always has. And then on top of that, somehow, I don't know who they're going to assign, but they've got to slow down Dalton Connect. He is one of the best players in the country, probably going to be SEC Player of the Year. And I don't even know how to go about slowing him down, just truth be told, because he can score at all 3 levels. And it doesn't really matter if he's in a straight man, pressure man, zone, double team situation. He always either scores himself or he finds other people and facilitates for other teammates to score. So figuring out how to defend him, and I think those are the 2 biggest keys to trying to figure out how to beat Tennessee. Will they do that? Who knows? If it's me personally, I stick Tremont Mark directly on Dalton Connect, and I run a blitz at him anytime he tries to go off a ball screen and, let someone else beat Arkansas. Just get the ball out of his hands and let somebody else beat Arkansas. If Arkansas is going to lose, let Zakai Ziegler do it. Let anybody, Jemai Meshack, let anybody else beat Arkansas other than Dalton Connect.
Yeah, it seems like all year, and we were kind of comparing the women's team to the men's team. It seems like they just have trouble guarding guards. It's like a guy that goes 2 for 20 ends up scoring 40 on them or 30. That's a daunting task. And, Tennessee's always given Arkansas fits. But, yeah, you see promise, but you want to see it multiple games. And that's, I think, the most frustrating thing when you see this team. You see what they can do because they're winning games, but they're not putting it all together. And I know it might seem like it's too little too late, but some of these guys, this is their last year. This is what you'll see from them. So it's kind of like you want to see them salvage and make something out of the last remaining games in the SEC. And hell, you never know. They might make a run in the SEC tournament.
Well, and to that end, I think one example of that is how well Mekhi Mitchell's played recently. This is his last year, and I'm sorry if you can hear my
You're good.
Oh, you're good.
She is very needy.
Yeah.
Her
You're
name's
above you in the cabinet.
yeah, no, her name is Spot because of the
Spot.
black spot on her head. But
We like mascots.
yeah, she's very needy. But no, I think Mekhi Mitchell is an example of that. I think, someone who this is his last year of college eligibility. He's posted career numbers over the last 4 games. This is the first time in his college career dating back to where did he go out of high school? I forget where he was. Then he transferred to Rhode Island. And then to Arkansas. But this is the first time he's ever had 4 consecutive double-digit scoring games. He had back-to-back double-doubles. He's averaging 14 points and 9 rebounds over the past 4 games. But what is he playing for? Nothing but pride. I mean, it's the same thing like I've talked about a couple different times. Like, this team is 12-11, and they're at large. Their chances of an at-large bid in the NCAA tournament are pretty much officially eliminated. The only way they'll get in the NCAA tournament is by winning the SEC tournament championship. So what are they playing for? Team pride and personal pride. So if you have guys like Mekhi Mitchell coming out and being a veteran leader like he has been the past few games, and standing up for his guys, playing really hard, playing with a ton of effort and producing, I think that says a lot. I think if these guys can come out and play with that effort, if Mekhi Mitchell's doing that, we saw L. Ellis just do it against Georgia too. Another guy who's going to be out of eligibility. Jalen Graham, another guy's played well of late, who's also going to be out of eligibility. I think these guys realize, this is it for them, and they're playing really well. They're playing with maximum effort, and they're producing.
Well, Jackson, we always appreciate you coming on, man, taking time, and good cameo by Spot there, and good luck to you moving forward. You're Michigan guy now, so
Oh yeah. No, it's one thing I've learned about being up here is that salt sucks.
yeah.
Well, they treat the roads and it's fine. Like, life goes on whenever it snows or ices or whatever. It's fine. But holy crap, the salt just sticks to your clothes and your car. And like, everybody has lifetime memberships to the car washes because, to rust out the bottom of your car. So I signed up and I get unlimited washes for like $25 a month. So I go through like every other day just to get all the salt off my car. But like, it hadn't snowed in 3 weeks, but there's still salt all over the road. I'll drive down the road and there's salt everywhere.
Oh yeah, my wife's from Michigan, and yeah, that's one thing. She was from around South Haven over there, Lake Michigan, and yeah, it's brutal once it gets cold up there and the roads, but always clear. It's just like you said, there's salt all over the place. But we appreciate you coming on, man. You have a good evening, and we'll holler at you later.
Sounds good. I appreciate y'all.
Thank you.
Again, that was Jackson Collier, JC Hoops. Always a pleasure to have him on, talking some Razorback basketball. But we're going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, we'll wrap up talk of Jackson, and we'll talk about some basketball news, and we'll recap the weekend that was for the women's softball team and talk about the women's basketball team playing Tennessee. Catch you after the break. Attention DIYers and home improvement enthusiasts. Are you searching for the right tools and the supplies to tackle your next project? Look no further than Mentor's Hardware Store. With locations in Ozark, Alma, and Clarksville, our vast selection of hardware and building materials is sure to have everything you need. Whether you're fixing a leaky faucet or building a new deck, plus our knowledgeable staff is always on hand to offer expert advice and guidance. And with our competitive prices and convenient online ordering, Mentor's Hardware Store is your one-stop shop for all your DIY needs. Visit us today, and let's build something amazing together. Are you in need of legal representation? Look no further than the law offices Robertson, Beasley, Shipley, and Robinson. As the oldest law firm in the River Valley, we have been serving our clients for over 100 years, with locations in Ozark, Fort Smith, and Springfield. Our experienced team of attorneys provide expert guidance and advocacy in a wide range of legal areas, including personal injury, family law, criminal defense, and more. Trust in our history and experience to the results you deserve. Contact the law office of Robertson, Beasley, Shipley, and Robinson today at 479-782-8813. That's 479-782-8813. Are you looking for a place to grab a cold drink and some delicious food? Look no further than Arkansas Brewing Company. Located at 201 South First Street in beautiful downtown Ozark, our establishment offers a wide selection of craft beers and tasty eats. But what sets us apart is our welcoming atmosphere and friendly staff. At Arkansas Brewing Company, you'll always feel like part of the family. So visit Destiny and Christopher Brockett and staff today and see for yourself what makes us the go-to spot for locals and visitors alike. Arkansas Brewing Company, come for the drinks and stay for the friends. Searching for premium brewery products that will take your daily routine to the next level? Look no further than Sterling Soap Company. Our handmade soaps, aftershaves, and balms are made with only the finest ingredients that give you the ultimate grooming experience. With a variety of scents to choose from, there's something for everyone. Plus, our products are crafted in small batches to ensure the highest level of quality. So why wait? Visit www.sterlingsoap.com or visit our retail store at 16 West Walnut Street in Paris, Arkansas. Shop our collection and discover the difference for yourself. Upgrade your grooming routine with Sterling Soap Company. And welcome back to the Hog Talk podcast. And again, special thanks to Jackson Collier for coming on, and good conversation. We covered a lot of topics when it comes to, the basketball team and NIL. And, you brought up a good point with the transparency and should fans and, but maybe we're asking too much. I don't know. I always go back and forth on it, but it's just, you see things that the NIL edge is trying to do, and and we're trying to play catch up. And I guess that's the frustrating thing. You see other schools doing these other things and getting millions and millions of dollars. And, I know Arkansas, they're trying to have fun with it and do things. It's just like, I think if Arkansas wasn't so far behind, it might be a better, if Arkansas didn't go 4-8 and having the basketball season they are, maybe it would be taken, but it's almost like, I guess I'll say it kind of tone deaf. It's almost like read the room. I understand your intentions. I love that people are trying to do it, but it's almost like bad timing, kind of behind the times. I mean, we're talking about FaceTiming, and it's like, is that really something? Now it's like it used to be something you would brag about, but like with Cameo now and all these things and NILs, people paying players to come on their shows and do podcast interviews. It's just like, it doesn't mean the same as it used to, because they're there because they're getting paid for it, opposed to you're really putting the work in, building that trust and relationship to have them on. And just seeing the fans' response of things like, hey, help us renovate Bud Walton Arena, which is kind of cool in a way. But then you follow it up with the whole join or follow, and the winner will get to FaceTime the favorite student athlete. I don't know.
Well, it's a few different things, like with and this is, as we've talked about it on here, and just you and I talking about like the NIL, the transparency, and I guess it's that tough situation that we as fans look at it like, okay, y'all are getting paid, so we've got to look. We now look at y'all like semi-pro or pro, or that's where NIL is leading to, is for them to be at that status. And then the schools, the NCAA, look at it like, no, they're still amateur athletes, so we don't have to give you that information. It's just kind of that, like, we don't have to, because they're still at this lower status level. I don't. There's not a right answer right now, as new as all this is. And like we've always talked about and always said too, winning fixes everything. We wouldn't be having these conversations if that was the case. Going to, I have not taken a trip on any other athletic department's social media really to see, but I don't really, from what I do see, I don't see them asking their fan bases for donations and for money like this. Maybe it's out there and it's just something I don't see, but it's just a constant reminder from the University of Arkansas to, hey, donate. Now we're going to try to throw in some incentives. Or I went to the game Saturday against Georgia, and I mean, before the game, I think just once, but even during the game, I mean, they were pushing NIL and donating. They played the commercial, which I think we've all seen across social media with all the coaches talking about it. That was forefront. And I'm just sitting here like, so here we are at the game that we've paid for, that we're paying concessions for, et cetera, et cetera. And now like we're in this game and we're getting asked to donate more.
Yeah.
Or we're to pay more. And I'm just kind of like, not really sitting right with me. And then even, the post that you shared today on with the Bud Walton Arena having a say in it. And I look at that and I read some of our comments from some of our fans and wholeheartedly agree that, we're talking about adding more expensive suites and taking away seats and this and that. Let's talk about making it more cost effective for our fans, making things cheaper to an extent. I mean, it's just like you were talking about the tone deaf side of it. That's just that they're not reading the room.
I totally agree with it because, like you said, they're wanting it. They're speaking to the common fan when they're asking for this.
Mm-hmm.
They're talking to the thousandaires. They're not talking to the millionaires. And again, they're wanting to cater. It's almost like a slap in the face because it's like you want our help, but who's it going to benefit?
Mm-hmm.
Is it going to benefit us? No, it's going to benefit the people who do pay the millions and stuff. And the people who do pay the millions, they deserve whatever they pay for. But you're asking more of us and taking away from us because you're going to add more seats for the people who pay the millions, or you're going to, and half of them. I would love to get a head count on how many people actually fill up those suites. I mean, do they? I mean, I don't know. I've not been to a game in a while, but it's like, do they really fill those up as much as they say they do? Or is it just a head count on, okay, these people filled up these suites?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, did you notice the suites filled up?
I didn't really look at the suites. I would say, and I'm being generous with saying that Bud Walton was 3/4 full. I know after or the next day I looked up on the final stats and everything, and of course the attendance just said the 19-2 because it was a sellout. I didn't ever see a scan tickets. I don't know if it was announced, but there were several sections that were scarce, so it'd be hard for me to believe that the suites were that full. And then you bringing up the common fan, it makes me think about when I was a manager at Bed Bath & Beyond, rest in peace. I remember even up here in Arkansas, the wedding registries that new couple or new people getting married would do before their weddings. They'd come in and register. And I remember Robert Griffin III, RG3, he registered down in one of the Texas stores, him and his wife, and those are public. And so somewhere it got, put around like, oh, they're registered at Bed Bath & Beyond. This is RG3.
Yeah.
It's made millions. Even up here, there were the average fan coming in to just because they thought it would be cool. And I get it. You do what you want to do with your money. I get that. But at the same time, here's this common person that's here sending a gift or donating to a fund or whatever that really doesn't need to be.
Yeah. And you see that. And we talked about that, last week on all that stuff when it compares to we mentioned Alyssa Milano asking for her kids' travel team. It's like you could fund that kid's team until he graduated college. Like it's just, I don't understand. And you're doing that knowing you're getting the reaction. You're going to get backlash from it. So it's just one of them things. Like I understand maybe again, if we were winning, people be more attuned to giving. And I know they got to push for it because they see with NIL, they see themselves slipping further and further behind. But also you got to get the players in. Look, we're not going to pay all this NIL money for a C+ team or a D level team. We want to see, Sweet 16s at least. We want to see bowl eligible teams at least. And then baseball starting this Friday, 4-game set against James Madison, and it's a people who don't even get, and that's the thing also. It's like you look at this baseball program where not everybody's guaranteed scholarships. They need NIL more than anybody.
Mm-hmm.
They're the ones that you see the least amount of from. I mean, yeah, but they're doing, listen, I would pay $300 for one of those bats. I mean, there's a girl, her family I grew up with. She plays on the softball team, Jaden Wells. I would buy her bat for $300 just because of the sentimental, like seeing someone I've known since she was 4 years old playing at the University of Arkansas now, but that hits that, personal, but it's a cool looking bat, and you see things like that, but they're not pushing it. Guaranteed they don't have to push it at the baseball facility because they sell out and they generate a lot of money for that program.
Yeah, and I think something that's rubbed me, I guess, the wrong way, and a lot of fans too, like when it comes to the baseball, is especially the midweek games or even the Friday afternoon games, is seeing those corporate seats, that you see on TV the majority of the time, right behind, home plate, even down to first, whatever. It's just like, the bareness, the emptiness. And I get it. It's 2:00 on a Wednesday afternoon or whatever the case may be. But, it's kind of like they've done, with Musselman, doing like the ticket giveaway, like send us your tickets if you're not going to use them. Something like that. Something has got to be, I feel like, done, because there are fans that will go to those Wednesday afternoon games, those early Friday games or whatever, that we're just sitting there looking at green seats because there's 3 people there.
Yeah. And that's the thing, and it'd be hard to do it, but I mean, you'd have to be one of them fans that die hard, really. But hey, man, get to the first inning to show up to the game, or we're going to let general admission come in.
Just start letting them in.
Just letting them in, or paying. You pay face value for a ticket. I think that would be awesome. Have a thing, but here's the thing. It's like you see these corporations that don't go to the games. Why not put 50 fans with your T-shirt?
Oh yeah,
in the stands. It'd be perfect, marketing on their half, kind of like what the Burlsworth kids do, have a section have a section in a spot of the outfield or on down the, not right behind the plate, but it's somewhere in the stadium where you could have like a fan section where, hey, this is JB Hunt. And then they have a section where kids are coming, I think it would be really cool. Or the fan, Any
of you corporate sponsors, if you get that idea, you can hit us up and we'll figure it out for you.
Yeah. You send us the money and we'll facilitate on how to make that happen.
And I just don't think those are conversations being had at these, obviously these corporate, like, hey, we've got all these tickets, but nobody's going. And it's just like, oh, okay.
Well, and you know what it is. It'll turn into greed. Well, you got these sponsors that plaster their names on the first baseline, and hey, look, all you're seeing is this logo because these kids are sitting and they're not paying as much as I am. And it'll all turn into that. We see it, but we're going to end the show on a high note. We're going to talk about everything else that's going on. We're going to start doing this every show, give a rundown of everything that's been going on Razorback sports now that softball, baseball, gymnastics, golf, soccer is going to have their spring schedule. There's going to be a lot of things going on in Fayetteville to cheer on. And starting off with a softball team, went 4-1, losing to Penn State. Played a really, good schedule down there. Started off Marshall. They beat Michigan State, Ohio, Florida Atlantic, and then losing to Penn State in 8 innings. A lot of promise to this team. Again, Adam, biggest question mark is pitching rotation. If they can get 2 to 3 pitchers, solid lineup, it's going to be a dangerous team. We know they can hit, but when you're going 3, 4, 5 innings without runs and you don't have the whole pitching staff to back it up, it's going to be hard to get to Oklahoma City. And we know that's the goal of this team, but that's a brutal lineup.
Yeah, looking at their schedule, I mean, what they've got coming up, I feel like they've kind of done what we've seen. Obviously we hope for a better season than what we've seen in basketball, but kind of scheduling in a sense that Coach Musselman did in the non-conference. There, some tougher tournaments, some tougher teams. They're wanting to see Coach Deifel's really wanting to gauge where they're at right now, and what they're going to need to, have figured out come SEC play.
Yeah, and there's a few you see in Nebraska on here. They play Florida Atlantic again in the Woo Pig Classic. You see South Dakota State, Wichita State. They come here for the Razorback Invitational. So after this trip to they go down to Tucson, Arizona, where they're playing Long Beach State, Omaha, and Arizona. They play Arizona twice. That's going to be a big test for them to see where they're at. But after the 18th of February, they will be in Vogel Park from February 22nd leading up to SEC play. I mean, that you think a month. March 10th is their last game in Vogel Park before they start SEC play March 15th against Auburn. So, yes, plenty of time to come watch them, plenty of time for this team to really gel with all the transfers coming in. I mean, it's going to be amazing to see this team, but we know we've followed this team. We've watched this team get one game away from Oklahoma City. We've seen them lose in regionals. We know how tough it is to get there, just like with the baseball team. So wishing them the best, and we're going to do our best to try to get Coach Deifel on before they start home play on February 22nd. So sometime in between the 18th and 22nd, we're going to try to get her on to be a part of the show. And moving on to the gymnastics team, they started off very strong, tying Alabama, beating Auburn and Georgia, and then from what a lot of people were saying, a complete hose job of the scoring at LSU. And then another, that's the thing when you look at college athletics, Adam, that is one of the most subjective when we're talking about judging. It's hard, but that's just how it is all the way from the bottom to the top. But when you go on the road and you're doing just as well as they are, but and now look, a whole point in gymnastics is way different than a whole point in football, basketball, or baseball.
Oh, yeah.
There's just a lot that goes into it. But, yeah, you lose. You can't tell me that your first – and this is 2 in Barnhill and 1 at Tuscaloosa. You went 196, 197, 196. And then you go 196-2 and 196-0. You can't tell me that the way they performed, that their scores dropped that much – on the road, but they go to the Metroplex Challenge on the 17th, where they play Cal, Oklahoma, and Washington. So that's a 4-team meet where they come together, and then from there they do another
on Monday. Yeah,
yes, that following in Denton. So it's at least they don't have to travel far, but Arizona, Alabama, and TWU. I don't know who TWU is, but that's who they play or who they're matched up against.
If I had to, no, Texas Western isn't around anymore. Thinking back to my
Tulsa Western. No,
Tulsa, yeah. No, it's Texans Women's University.
Okay, there we go.
I mean, I was just going back to my Glory Road movie days where Texas Western was Nolan Richardson's team.
But they'll be back February 23rd in Barnhill Arena against Kentucky, and then they go to Columbia on the 3rd, and then they have 2 meets in a row inside of Bud Walton Arena. So that's going to be a lot of chances to see a lot of these schools, a lot of these teams play inside the confines of Fayetteville, and then, of course, with the baseball program. So, Adam, as we wrap things up, we've not been too kindly on our athletics this year. I didn't get a chance to get a catch up on the women's basketball score. I think it was like 40-24 at halftime.
They were down 23 just a minute ago. So 65-39 in the 4th right now.
And Tennessee's got a big squad. Rakia Jackson's, I mean, she's a WNBA style player, and we talked about her last week when we were talking about the women's teams and just the type of players in the SEC that they go up against, and she's definitely one of them. But, yeah, you want them to – and that's what made that Alabama game so crucial to win because you're sitting right there on the cusp of 500 in SEC play, and the games are going to get tougher down the stretch. You're sitting at 5-5 in this, so you lose this game, now you're sitting at 5-6 in SEC play. It does not matter when you're at this point in this stage on the bubble. You're 17-8 does not matter really when it comes to getting in the tournament. You cannot. You got to be 500 or above in the SEC to get in. Moving down the stretch, the final stretch, they play Missouri, A&M, Vandy, South Carolina, and Ole Miss. A lot of tough games. I would say Missouri, Texas A&M. Texas A&M's not a slouch. Vanderbilt always plays Arkansas tough. And then you end the season with the number one team in the country. And then, of course, Ole Miss, which has Marquisha Davis on that team, which is doing really well for Ole Miss. So it's going to be a busy month for Arkansas sports as a whole. And we're going to do more shows on that, go back to twice a week. Hopefully we'll have plenty of good news to talk about when we come back to you next Sunday. Again, because of the Super Bowl, we come to you on a Monday night. So, Adam, you got anything else before we wrap it up?
Oh, just going into, softball, baseball, and everything, especially softball. I hope to see, some new attendance records out there in Bogle. I think those girls really deserve it. There's high expectations for the softball and baseball team. So it's one of those that I'm ready. I'm glad it's here so we can stop talking about like how the teams are going to look or who's in, who's not. Let's just get it going. Let's get the road to Omaha on course.
Yeah. And again, it's like, man, I can't wait for baseball season. It's like basketball team is losing. They're like, well, hey, baseball season starts. Hey, it's a few days away. So I'm going to try to catch a couple of games this spring. So I'll get up there and watch some softball and baseball action. But that will do it for this episode of the Hawk Talk Podcast, brought to you by Bet Online, Sterling Soap and Roastery Studios, and Arkansas Brewing Company. We will catch you next Sunday.